You're tuned into The Collective Voice, thought-provoking interviews co-hosted by young adults, fostering deep faith through courageous questions. Welcome to the conversation.
Welcome, everyone. This is The Collective Voice, a production of the 787 Collective at Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary, with the purpose of centering young adult voices in the experience of young adults and our ongoing faith exploration and formation. And I am Rudy Logan, the Associate for Congregational Innovation at Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary, and I am here with Phil Dieke, the Director of Congregational Innovation at Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary. And we have a special guest with us today.
Elizabeth Gilbert's with us. Yeah, totally. Also, Austin Presbyterian, it's just a mouthful, isn't it? Every time I say it, I'm always like, Austin Seminary is so much easier, but I get it. Austin, that's our full name, Austin Presbyterian Theological Seminary. Yes. Elizabeth Gilbert is with us, and we had the opportunity to meet Elizabeth a couple weeks ago when we were in St. Louis at the Justice and Joy Conference, which was the gathering of about 200 campus ministers and those engaged in various young adult ministries, from college-age ministry into the budding of young adult ministry. And Elizabeth really brings some expertise, I'm going to say expertise, from the young adult ministry side through the Gather Network, which is a product of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, which Elizabeth is going to share way more about here in a little bit. But it was fun to get to meet her because she was one of the very first of the Gather Network folks. And so it kind of like, I got invited to the Gather luncheon at this conference that we were at, and it was kind of like being amongst a star. Like, everyone was like, Elizabeth Gilbert is like, and she even got an award while we were there. Like, it was amazing that she was like this famous person, and so it was really cool. We recently had Cece Sucknack on with us talking about some of the things that Gather Austin has been doing, and so we're just huge Gather fans, and we love what's happening through the Gather Network. Elizabeth is in Cincinnati. She's actually a data scientist. She is not a minister like Cece, but is a minister in her own right, be that through data science or through the work she does in the Gather Network there in Cincinnati. So, Elizabeth, I welcome you to bring any information you want to share with the audience, and more than anything, we're just really grateful for you being with us today.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. I would say, the work that I do through the Gather Network and Gather Cincinnati is it's really fulfilling, and it's been such a growth opportunity to really lean into being a lay leader in church. There's a lot of opportunities to be student leaders, and then you're no longer a student and you're in young adulthood, and how do you create the spaces that you want to exist and that you embrace and that you want to be available to others? And doing that through the work that I've done with Gather Cincinnati has been such a rewarding experience and a big growth opportunity. I live in Cincinnati now. I'm not originally from Cincinnati. I'm from Chicago, and I came to Ohio by way of Ohio State for my undergrad in data analytics, where I was part of Jacob's Porch, the Lutheran campus ministry there. So that was the meaningful faith experience that I was coming to Cincinnati from, and really kind of set me on the path to looking for more faith community with people in the same stage of life as me, and helping to fill that gap where it didn't exist already in my city. So that's where I'm coming from, and thank you for the very kind interest.
We know a little bit about Gather just from our conversations with Cece, and Cece's been like talking very specifically about Gather Austin. Will you just share with us kind of the story that got you where you are now with Gather, and really kind of the inception of how it all really came into being?
Totally. So I mentioned the move from Ohio State and Jacob's Porch to Cincinnati. And I graduated Ohio State December 2019, and then moved to Cincinnati in August 2020, which is quite a time to move to a new city. But even so, it was important to me to have that community with the community of people in the same stage of life. I was a part of a traditional intergenerational church for the first time since high school, because you have that unique campus ministry experience. You're lucky enough to have one in college. And then after that, you're back in intergenerational community, and I found myself as one of the two young adults in my church. I said, this is wonderful, but I would feel so much more filled up and ready to participate meaningfully in this intergenerational community if I also had a young adult community. I wonder if that exists. So I look on the ELCA's list of churches in my area and look at all the ones that seem like they have a good number of people listed, and then find two churches that supposedly have young adult ministry. One says, sorry, we actually don't, it's not active. And the other says, are not active, but let's have a conversation, let's chat. And this person, Caitlin, mentioned that she had heard about Gather Twin Cities at a conference she was at, and she heard Steph Anderson speak about Gather Twin Cities and what they had done. So she had heard about Gather Twin Cities pre-COVID, and was like, it's would be super cool to have this in Cincinnati, but I don't have the capacity. She had a lot going on, and I was like, well, I do. Like, I'm fresh here and would enjoy getting to help make this happen. So that was fall 2020, and we took a stab at it outdoors, masked, because why wait when there's a lack of community filling the gap in the space, and learned a little bit from our initial fall 2020 attempt, and then connected with Steph, which was really useful. I think that was one of the first Gather Network mentorship things, even before the Gather Network existed. Learning from Steph was invaluable, and getting the blessing to use the Gather name. I was like, well, you guys have a great name. I don't really know what we're going to call this thing that we're doing in Cincinnati. She was like, you can just use it. I was great.
It's That's really so a great name. Like, it truly is just a fabulous name. Yeah.
Yes. So we started in Gather Cincinnati under that name. I took some time over the winter, couldn't really meet anyway without being outdoors. So I took some time over the winter to plan and help connect with partner churches, established in partnerships around the area. Lots of Lutheran churches based off of who my pastor knew, but became ecumenical not long after. And had our first worship gathering in April 2021, which was wonderful. We met outdoors at a park, and it was a great start. And then the way that, kind of fast forwarding, we're doing ministry, we're doing faith formation and social events, kind of about 2 events a month. I was leading for the first about year until I brought on a co-organizer. But the next step in the Gather Network is, I guess we're the second Gather under that name, but then at the Churchwide Assembly of the ELCA in August 2022, I meet the ELCA Young Adults leaders, Daniel and their team, and we also collectively meet people who are young adults who are doing their own young adult ministries in different areas of the country or want to do it and are doing it under a different name or are thinking about it. And we're like, wow, there's like 6 of us. We should support these people and make a network. And so Daniel and their team do a wonderful job of kind of giving the structure and support for that, and asked Steph and I to co-chair the network. And I worked with Steph for those first months doing that together. We start establishing monthly meetings. Sam comes on, Sam Johnson, and between the 3 of us co-organizing, we kick off a Gather Network. And Sam took it over after I had to, with a job change, focus a little bit more on Gather Cincinnati locally, building the team, delegating so that it can be sustainable past me when you're building something new and have 1 or 2 people organizing. So Sam has, and the ELCA Young Adults have brought it from the initial first few to 36 formal Gather Network sites. You can see the Gather Network website. There's a map. It continues to grow. 36 was the number like a few weeks ago when we were at the conference. So it potentially has grown already, but there were like more in development always. So that's the story. That's how the story from my perspective, at least, that's how I fit into the experience. Yeah, that's what it's looked like so far.
Well, Elizabeth, I actually want to take a few steps back. Moving to a new city can be a challenging and disorienting time. So how instrumental was campus ministry for you in becoming more settled at Ohio State University?
Absolutely. It was probably the biggest factor, I would say. I had moved from a different state, didn't know anyone else going to Ohio State, so it was a kind of fresh start, new space. And it was like the first week, right? You like move in and there's an involvement fair, and I'm like, it's a Sunday, but I didn't find a church in the morning, and oh look, this campus ministry is having church in the evening. Let's go to that. And I sit down and meet the person who becomes my best friend immediately, and we know it right away. And have this beautiful community where the change from faith pre-college to being in a space where you can think about who you are and how you are in the world in a little bit more intense and active way. It was just an important space for me to have found. And it challenged me to be a more intentional person and leader and think about how we relate and interact with our world, our society. There is an academic faith that I didn't have before, and a more social justice oriented space that I hadn't experienced before as well. So you can question everything and build it back up in that experience. That's kind of my experience. Jacob's Porch is a wonderful, wonderful place. It taught me the importance of having a shared vocabulary and community. That's something I think a lot about with Gather. It's hard. Jacob's Porch has been around a lot longer than Gather has, but there's a lot that I've taken from that experience. When we're thinking about foundational experiences, though, too, I think Jacob's Porch is the most massive one that led me into Gather. But even before that, we think about Gather being a space for young adults, often in the wake of a meaningful faith experience. And that could be campus ministry, but also a small shout out to the other meaningful faith experiences, one of which I had, some of which other young adults have. The one I did not have was a year of service, the YAGM Young Adults in Global Mission from the ELCA. Other programs similar to that can be that place where it's hard to find a faith community afterwards because of how intense and formative the experience is. But also camp ministries can be really formative too. The camp ministry that I was a part of was an ELCA camp ministry at Augustana College in Rock Island, Illinois. And it was called Leadership Lab. It was not an outdoor camp ministry. We were outdoors, but it was on a campus. And it gave us kind of a crash course in leadership as high schoolers, and really put you through the second year of it. You lead a icebreaker, and then a Bible study, and then a whole hour and a half long worship. And you're sophomores in high school, and they really support you through. The first year is who are we as leaders? And the second year is, okay, you're going to do it. Just jumping in. So being in a church that supports youth and going to a camp that supports youth leadership and teaches leadership to high schoolers, and then going to campus ministry, all built on top of each other. So I wouldn't have been equipped to jump in leading by example and contributing in Bible studies and worship in campus ministry if I hadn't had the formative experiences in church as a youth as well. So that's kind of two important sides of the things that have prepared me that I see strongly.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that, because I think that when I listen to your story, there's so much of an entrepreneurial spirit that takes place. It's I'm seeking belonging. I find intergenerational connection, but I really want this young adult experience. I don't find it specifically, so I'm just going to create it, but that didn't just come out of nowhere, right? There was a whole trajectory that got you on that. So I appreciate you sharing all of that. And I don't know, it's almost, is there a word of wisdom for other young adults who maybe don't have that background experience? Or obviously you can't replace, that's probably 8-10 years of leadership that's led you to this point of being entrepreneurial on that. But if young adults are hearing this and I didn't have that experience and I'm still looking for that belonging and I haven't found it, what does it mean for me to create if I don't have that leadership training?
Yeah. I think that's a great call. The one thing that I've noticed over time is that it is so much easier to help support something that is already going than it is to create something from scratch. The first thing I ever created from scratch, I think, was a hackathon in data science at Ohio State. There's so many other things, and I wanted this niche thing, and someone else had the idea, and I was like, yeah, let's run with it. But we had the backing of a student org for analytics that I was already a part of, and I already knew really well. So we kind of split off an event, and that was a net new thing. It was big. But I had so many experiences where I just showed up, right? One of the first experiences was leading a vacation Bible camp with my mom, she's leading my brother's age, and I just jump in. They're 6 years younger than me, so I'm probably somewhere in middle school, and that's the very first one. And then there's a student org or something that exists. If your Gather exists and you're hey, I really enjoyed this thing, what do you want to see there that doesn't already exist? Or are you doing social events and you have a really cool idea for something that you really like doing? Other young adults probably like that too. Things where it's just kind of organize one event is a really easy way to dip your toes in the water. And your Gather leader or whatever organization you choose will probably really appreciate the initiative and bringing another voice to leading it. I mean, all communities, but especially communities who are really intentional about doing so, are what you bring to it. It's so collective. It's so each person's voice. And as a leader who is thinking about that, which many of the organizations in this space hopefully and likely are, as what I've seen, the leader is going to 100% appreciate you bringing your voice and want that and celebrate that and be there to support you. If it's intimidating, it's okay. It's a starting point to jump in. So those are a few of the things I would say about that.
We're talking a lot about from the Gather kind of young adult side of things. Since you've been around since kind of the beginning of this for the most part, what has it been like from the church side of things? Has there been this kind of competitive, like, oh no, you're going to steal my young adults kind of mentality? And how if so, which I'm assuming there have been, having been somebody who worked in churches for 16 years, how has that been something that Gather Network has addressed with local churches? Or what's the partnership really been like with the local churches specifically?
Yeah, I actually have had a really, really positive experience with our local churches. I have not had any feeling of competitiveness, which is great. In our area, there is not another Protestant young adult group or queer affirming young adult group. There's a Catholic and a non-denominational, and I checked out the non-denominational one. I didn't go so far as to check out the Catholic one when I was looking for a queer affirming young adult space. But there's not any young adult specific competition. And that means there are so many churches in the greater Cincinnati area, Lutheran and ecumenical, of all Protestant denominations, that even if a church was to be upset or refuse to partner, there's so many other churches you can work with and that have been so gracious and willing to host us. We've had worship at a new partner church or a different partner church every 3 months since 2021, since April 2021. We think we've repeated 2 churches in that list. And we have maybe 15 partner churches now, roughly. We keep a list on our website, and it just keeps growing. It's amazing the churches I run into, and they're so kind and supportive. As a leader, when a church hosts us, it makes me feel so loved as a young adult leader and so supported. So I've had a very positive experience. One thing that I will say about the Gather Network is that the way that the Gather Network, we as a Gather Network support Gather leaders or young adult leaders, is that in the monthly Gather Network meetings and the time for conversation and reflection, we're checking in and hearing about what's joyful and challenging in young adult leadership. And sometimes it is in other cities or in other experiences. Sometimes it is a challenging church or a challenging synod relationship, or just trying to get in contact or get support, or the experience of you're doing great work, but we don't have funding to give you. Just keep doing what you're doing. There's so many different challenges that can come up. I've been really blessed to have a supportive synod as well as our local churches. But in those, the Gather Network leaders being together and able to kind of talk it out and hear about what the situation is locally for that leader and how others might have experienced that before, feels like a really good gift to be able to offer a young adult leader, to just be we're here with you and we're here to listen. And even having a mentor assigned where you can have hour-long conversations, a few that are supported by the EOC young adults through the Gather Network, is a great opportunity to walk with somebody through that. And it's been cool as a mentor to get to support mentees through their initial Gather stages. So I guess luckily don't have any personal experience to share, but that's the kind of organizational experience that I've seen, get to come and support young adults in those experiences.
Elizabeth, there was something I wanted to circle back to. You mentioned how you came to this engagement with your faith in academics and how you were able to grow into a social justice lens. Was this an organic process? Is this something that you experienced in the classroom primarily? What were the key ingredients to take you to that place?
Yeah. I think that it was a lot about what was modeled at Jacob's Porch for me, what I saw other people doing, and what I felt kind of the space to explore and ask questions and jump into. I remember when I started college in 2016, and there's a big election coming up that I was quite confident would go the way I was hoping. I jokingly was like, well, if Trump gets elected, I'll just have to become an activist. And so I attend my first protest sometime later in that school year, and alongside somebody who was a longtime Jacob's Porch, member that was in the process of aging out and moving. They said at this protest for women's rights that justice is love in action, and seeing those things demonstrated by the reflections and vulnerability that people in my community were willing to share in conversation and out in the community, and by their actions and what they valued and spent their time on and shared information about, was the thing that helped me to feel comfortable jumping in to that space. There's a lot of ways that I still feel like I'm jumping into lots of different spaces. There's so many things that I care about. There's so many things that I don't know. You feel the weight of the kind of the burdens and injustice and sadness in the world. I'm still in this process of, there's some things that I know a good amount about and can advocate for, while there's a lot of things that I still want to learn more about and still want to be in community with people who know a lot about. The one that I do a lot now is active in public transportation, which is I feel like a unique one, but I love it. Those are my chosen modes of transportation. I've gotten farther and farther away from using a car. I can articulate why it's important any day. But there's a lot of injustice beyond my local community. I mean, transportation justice is important to support and connect communities in an equitable way. But there's a lot of things far away from home that I am heartbroken about, and I wish I could advocate for more articulately. So being in a space where it's okay to admit that I can't articulate as well as I wish, but knowing that I can express the heartbreak that I feel is something that I wouldn't have dipped my toes into if it wasn't for a space that demonstrated those values and the vulnerability to name the things. I think one thing I think a lot about now is the way that I wish a lot of traditional church would just name the complex realities of the world more. Just say the thing, say the injustice, say don't pray for peace, don't say we don't know the answer. Name the injustice, say it, because I'm feeling it. And when I show up to church, I want to be in a space where I can sit in the space together in that. So those are some of the thoughts I have, I guess, on that. It's a big space to move into. But
how does that, so if you don't always find that in church, how does that play out in Gather Cincinnati? Like, what is the role that justice work and conversations play out in Gather Cincinnati?
Yeah, I think it's a lot about the space and the conversations we're able to have. I think a lot of other young adults are probably in a similar space. I noticed that there are some gathers that are really, really articulate about some issues that as far as I can see, in all of the gathers, we all care about them, but we care about the issues and the injustice that we see. Some gather leaders are really, really great at articulating it, and I admire that in them so much. We at Gather Cincinnati have a lot more space to just support young adults in the space of not exactly knowing and caring, but not being confident in how to articulate, and kind of just having conversation where it's okay to show up however you were feeling, and be upset because it's hard. Share where you're at and know that you're supported. I think that's a lot of it. So far from an organizational perspective with Gather, we started with worship. We have social events. We have added on like a faith formation outside of worship component in like a Bible study type event that also sometimes is a writers club or a podcast club or something else. We have an annual retreat that we started last year, and we have an annual service day where we kind of have one person that organizes and goes out in the community. Being more active in social justice as another element is something that I would love to bring in a more structured way. That's another area to grow to, besides just sharing kind of where we're at individually with each other.
Right. Elizabeth, I'm particularly interested in how you bridge your faith and social justice activism, right? And maybe that's a bit oxymoronic given how our faith kind of invites
Mm,
us into that kind of engagement. But just speaking from experience, I think, especially around 2020, I was in a couple of spaces where, anti-racism, right, and all of these books that came out about that were explored in a way that at times could seem divorced from the faith. Like there was
mm,
kind of this disciplinary, separation in some
mm.
respects in some of the spaces that I had been a part of. Um, so how do you all like keep the gospel at the center as you pursue social justice in a way that demonstrates, perhaps emphasizes that this is the call of our faith? Like anti-racism, social justice is not extracurricular, right?
Yeah,
This is an inherent part of uh, the call of the person we follow, that being Jesus.
yeah. The thing that comes to mind first is at our gather worships, the message is young adult led. Everything is young adult led in gather, but we ask a young adult participant if they're willing to give a reflection as message and support them, and also lean on a time of discussion afterwards. That's something that I took from Jacob's Porch. They called it prayer altar, and it kind of replaced a prayers of the people. But I really love that reflective, interactive component where you get to have conversation about what you're hearing, um, and asking young adults to bring their perspective towards a message and reflection to share often ends up in a space where they're coming from that, like, this is core, um, it's what's on our minds. And I don't know, there's no pushback. Nobody's trying to put it on the side. Um, it's it's nice to be in a space where everybody's kind of on the same page. It's possible in intergenerational church too, for sure. But uh, one thing that's nice about Gather is that we don't have, I mean, especially a lay-led ministry, but it's funded by partner churches and synod support and ELCA young adults. It's not funded by giving individually, primarily. And we're a lay-led volunteer group, so there's not a salary to pay. So nobody's job is on the line if you say something that alienates people.
Fair
There's
enough
no
on that
like,
one.
yeah. I mean, I saw churches I've been a part of shy away from hard conversations for what seems like that reason, and that's really hard especially when that's an important conversation for you to have. So we can be unabashedly queer affirming, and if that's not cool with you, it's not the space for you. Um, and if we have conversations about the things that are important to us, things that are central to our faith and our lives, and that doesn't resonate, it's maybe not the space. It's okay to be in community with people that disagree with you, and we're happy to have hard conversations. But it's also important to balance the space where we don't shy away from it um, because it's central and because it's important to have a space that is safe and restful for the participants. Um, so it's such a balance. I mean, I often think, and one of my co-organizers in Gather Cincinnati has quoted me on this recently, but it's important to be in community with people who disagree with you. Relates to the ELCA's stance on gay leadership and membership in church, where they let any church choose their stance on both of those in any combination. It's okay to be gay. It's not okay to be gay. It's okay to be in leadership and gay. It's not okay. So I find myself in churches that are say yes wholeheartedly and support people of all identities, but there are churches that don't in our denomination, and we're in community with them broadly in the church as well. So I think on a local level, you don't often find that intense mixing, right? If somebody showed up and they realized they were kind of the odd one out in their views, they might not stick around. And they might have seen our website and been like, well, I'm actually not looking for a queer affirming space. I'm not going to show up here, or a space that like welcomes people regardless of anything that might separate us. So I think it's a lot about the perspectives that I think participants bring and make it a space where we support that. We back them. We're here for
Have you had though? Like, have you had pretty intense disagreements on things, or has it been pretty much like for the most? Okay, not so much.
Yeah, not as much. I mean, yeah, I think on a like local who shows up level, I feel like people a little bit self-select into the spaces that they need. So it's not super hard to balance the ability to say what's on your mind and the safety and restfulness of participants. But it is something we think about all the time. We're like, I want both of those to be true, and to be the existence for participants here. Yeah.
Well, I think that says something about the nature of, like, again, your website and what you already support and stand for, based on being very clear and articulate about what your kind of core beliefs are, which there's a lot to be said about that. And I think a lot of times churches don't do a great job of that either, you know? So props to y'all for doing a great job in the midst of that.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
And Elizabeth, this is kind of a big question, and this is one that I've been wrestling with. So sorry to kind of hurl this at you in a way, but I believe there's a fine line between being in community with those who may be operating in a kind of earnest ignorance in some respect about some of these critical issues because of the ways that they've been socialized to believe these harmful ideas, and then those who are just committed to perpetuating these harmful ideas, right? And just thinking about the task of an organizer, a pastor, a faith leader, how do you draw that balance between those who you can work with, those where you might see some fertile ground to, help them develop a different way of thinking around these critical issues, versus those who are committed, right, to abhorrent values in some way? Like, and to what level do you hold them responsible, or should we hold them responsible or accountable for those, versus those who may also reproduce similar ideas, but are doing so in a kind of learned or even coerced ignorance to a degree?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, like you said, a big question. I'll share things that are on my mind. The one like boundary I have always as a leader is if a participant does or says something that hurts other participants or others outside of the group, that's a boundary. That's where you have to step in and have a conversation. And I think that can be hard to detect, and maybe like it's like what is too harmful? What is the thing where you say, there are a lot of things that are bad, but what is bad enough? I think being comfortable with stepping in, and I haven't had that situation come up, luckily, but being comfortable with keeping that as a value hold, I think starts with, in conversation, being willing to say, I don't know, I actually don't know if I agree with that, or I disagree, or I have this experience, let me tell you about it. And I think of my co-organizer who teaches science for high school students that are speakers of other languages. So she has a lot of immigrant students. She has had quite a time this year, but she has so many experiences that she brings in conversation, and you can see that the care and pain that she has for the experience her students have. A lot of participants in Gather have a lot of privilege they're coming with, and to be able to share experiences of people who have challenges that we didn't even see in other people, maybe growing up, is a space where you can say, have you considered this? Or this is what's on my mind, I think, so that's one thought. Second thought I have is the ways that we demonstrate naming our privilege as leaders, as participants who are a core part of the community. That kind of relates, I think. But for people who are, in general, for people who are a new part of any community, like I was in campus ministry, they're looking to the people who are part of that community to see, how do we operate? What vocabulary do we use? What values do we hold? And when you can demonstrate things that help us to be intentional and reflective and grow in community, I think that's a solid place to be. I think when I think about this, I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of ways that I wish I could be more articulate and support more precisely and know know what I can offer the people in this community with me. But even if I can't articulate all the things that I wish I could, all the heartbreak I have, I know that I can come alongside the participants in our community and offer what I do have, offer the experience I have, and the ability to name the things that I'm coming with, the privilege I have, and be with them as they navigate it too. So that's an incomplete answer to a big question, but it's a good question. I think it's a thing to continually be reflecting on. Yeah.
I appreciate your answer, and I think it's good at affirming how we are all on this learning journey. And we didn't always know what we know at this present moment, and there's yet so much room for improvement. So, while we are trying to organize others, we are too a part of this collective learning process. So thank you.
Yeah, and just again, a huge shout out that both you and your co-leader are lay people, right? Like that.
Yeah.
There's not a theological training, you don't have seminary degrees or whatever, like, and you're showing up and you're in the space and you're doing the things, and it's just a great theology of presence, like that you're there, and that's I think that's the most important part of it, right? You're not going to be perfect at it, and guess what? Clergy aren't perfect at it either, right? So there's just a beautiful recognition of the priesthood of all believers, that we all bring something to the table and that we all have a ministry that's waiting for us. But I would love for you to just chat a bit about what that looks like for you as somebody who is a data scientist. Like, I love the intersection of data science and Gather Network, right? Like this ministry place. Like,
yeah.
The journey in of itself, I'm sure, is a fascinating one. But what does this kind of work-life, faith balance look like for you? And in some ways, how does data science and technology play into the development of your faith and how you play that out?
Yeah, definitely. Great questions. One thing you said at the beginning is talking about showing up. I think Gather, especially as a lay leader, shows you the value of showing up over and over. Also, as lay leaders who are supporting participants in reflection and giving a message and things like that, we have so many wonderful church partners where we feel so confident that we can connect participants with any number of pastors and get some support in theological questions that they might have, or being able to put together something they're confident in. We often at worship have the host church. Sometimes it's just lay folks who are there to volunteer, and they often provide a meal, which is one of the things that makes me feel so loved and cared for by our church partners. But there's often also, we invite the pastor of that church to be there in attendance as well, to participate and host in the space. Because we don't have any lay folks, one of my favorite ways of other young adult pastors put this is they just need the magic hands. So we ask somebody, young adult or not, who's connected with the church or in Gather, to preside over communion. And it's no big deal if we can't get somebody to preside. Many of our worships we have been able to, and so it's pretty infrequent at this point, but that we would have to skip communion. But that's how on the logistical level, how being lay leaders in a faith space looks. I think when I think about my career as a data scientist and my volunteer work, I always describe organizing a community as a very niche hobby. I'm really into it. It's definitely my hobby. It's what I do for fun. I love it. I do it in Gather Cincinnati and in a data and analytics meetup. So right now, I really, in this hobby, have these two spaces. They're both things that didn't exist. There was no data and analytics professional networking space, which is so valuable for people when they're in job transition and looking for community and next steps and learning and connecting, not feeling alone. But I do both of those things. And the biggest thing that comes to mind with being a lay leader in data science, I started my career in startups. So I had a year at a startup where I was doing geosocial data science. And then I had a year and a half at a startup it's a much bigger startup where I was doing healthcare administration automation and product data analytics. And now I've had just over 2 years at not a startup anymore, a post-acquisition startup as Duo Security as part of Cisco. So I have the stability of a big tech company, finally. But in those transitions, I have more and less time overtime to, depending on the demands of a new job or job transition, to give to the hobby and lay work of volunteer leading and organizing. So part of what I've done there, it was amazing to have opportunities to support the Gather Network in its beginnings. I loved it so much. I would love to go back to doing it someday. It was so cool to be at the conference all together and see where we've come. But doing the hard work of knowing when you have to rebalance and step back from things like a wonderful first year of Gather Network to knowing that I need to focus on the local Gather Cincinnati and build it so that it's sustainable in the transitions that will be to come is a big thing. And you have more or less time over time. It's not part of your day-to-day responsibilities to do the logistics and organizing, which also makes it really important to build the teams. And both of the things I organize, I thought about that a lot last year because I knew that if I didn't build the teams and delegate, give away parts of the things that I do for it, figure out what is kind of the most important next step that you really need to spend your time doing, and give away all the things that like operationally keep you from doing that next thing. Name what you're not as strong at. I am good at getting people to show up in the same time at the same place. The logistics, like event planning, I got it. Having people to come alongside and like plan content for a retreat, we decided to outsource to a non-young adult because we didn't have the capacity or like talents to plan an entire retreat end to end for a small group of first young adults who are coming. And when people express interest, letting them in your delegating leadership, when participants express interest in contributing, letting them do it. We're just figuring out what they need for support, offering that, and then just empowering them to contribute. It often turns from I'm going to just plan a couple things to, I think for us last time, I said, well, you've been planning things for a few months. What should I call you? I need to describe you to somebody who I'm going to introduce you to or tell about you. And they said, well, I guess I didn't want a title at first, but you can call me your social organizer. It's like, great. And that's how it organically develops. And we can do more because we have more people doing each part. So that's a lot that was been on my mind as a lay leader to make it sustainable. You have, life transitions where in the beginning you're in a new city, your organization, what you're trying to fill the gap with, your organizations are the whole community you have, right? Maybe. And you, over time, meet community in other spaces. I had a big transition in how I chose to navigate the world in transportation. That changed the radius of where I was going to go a lot. But I have co-organizers who can host events that are outside of the range of what I choose to navigate all consistently by bike or bus. So that like teamwork collaboration helped me through that transition. There's so many things that come up, right? There's people and spaces, and we haven't had anyone move away as an organizer from Cincinnati yet, but CC has a wonderful liturgy of transition that, gosh, everybody in the Gather Network loves that we think is very cool. We are all big fans of Gather Austin. So amazing that you've got to connect with her lots. But those are some of the things I would say. It's a big part of my identity as a lay leader that I have a full-time day job that is separate from what I do as a lay leader. It's kind of cool getting to keep them separate too, because I love what I do with Gather Cincinnati, and it is not the thing that sustains my income. I don't have to worry about it. I get to pour as much as I want into it as I have time, and I don't have to ask of it to sustain me. It can be the kind of creative, but in creating something besides art, right? People talk about this with their creative passions. They don't ask it to sustain them right away. But that's the
I was just thinking that it sounds like an art.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like an artist who gets to do their
Yeah.
art because they love it, not because it sustains them. Yeah, that's really beautiful.
Yeah, that's what I'd share.
I'm wondering, How does your background in data science and analytics inform how you pursue organizing and thinking about these like
Mm,
qualitative and quantitative components and how organizing can be such flow work, excuse me. How does your
yeah,
background in data science, I guess, keep you open to the possibilities?
yeah. I think it's interesting the ways that I kind of consistently and avidly pursue the quantitative component of like understanding the success of a community and avidly don't, right? Like know where to draw the line. One thing that I got from my campus ministry experience is campus pastor would talk a lot about how it's not about the numbers of how many people are showing up to a community. Um, that's not what makes the success of a community. It's about things that are unquantifiable and intangible, the space that the community creates, the welcome the community is able to offer to new participants, the like the value that the members of the community get from it, the rest they're able to find, the ways they're able to contribute to their community, to their home churches because of the community you have, especially in the context of young adult faith community. So that's where it doesn't. That's where like I draw the line. And I know from the intersection of these, there's no point in trying to quantify it. I can give estimates and I can fill out our Gather Network annual survey well, but a lot of it is estimates because I from the very beginning I had a Google form. We still use the same one where participants give some information. They share their basic contact information, email because that's required so that I can send them a welcome email and let them to the Discord. Phone number is optional, so I can reach out to them and let them know that we have the next worship coming up. But if they don't want to share it, they don't have to. How they found out about Gather, so maybe like what church they're part of. If there's anything else they want to share, here is where often I say, the kind of one of the prompts is, what are you looking for in faith community? But I don't force participants to, or even offer the opportunity for them to. We have dietary restrictions too. Those are things like operational. What do I need to take action on? What do I need to know about you to take action to support you in community? But I don't ask them to self-disclose any demographic information. I'm not asking. Sometimes when people ask you to kind of aggregate your community, they want to know, and we just estimate how many queer folks, how many people of color, what does that look like? But I'm not asking people to share that with me before they've even met us. So I think there's ways, the consistency, organization. I love a good Google Drive. I love a Canva. A lot of the engineer brain that you'd get trained in computer science. I'm confident in navigating the like domain of our website and things like that. But I enjoy them. I think those things are fun too. But there's like the boundaries I draw of what I think is useful and important in the balance of a community building, especially when it's very beginning. There's so much, there's so much potential, and it's just so new to start something from scratch. We're, 4+ years in now to Gather Cincinnati, but I still like remember those early days where you're just putting what you got out there and really hoping that it works, really hoping people show up. And they did, and they do, and a lot of it's been word of mouth. So that's kind of what I bring. I know my strengths with it. I know my limitations. But yeah.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for your time today and for your willingness to share. This has been so insightful, and I hope that listeners can take some inspiration from this and a lot of great learning pieces from this. Kind of a final thought here. You mentioned advocacy work you do, and often that takes a lot and is somewhat draining, right? Like if you don't have good community and good support in the midst of that. So just a good question of where are you finding beauty in the world recently?
We just had our summer worship. We do July worship. We typically been doing it with church partners, but we wanted to change it up for this one, and we did it at a park again for the first time since 2021. And it was really beautiful. You're coming to events that you care about, you have such a stake in, with a lot of like hopes and put a lot of effort into it. And so maybe you're thinking a lot about like, I know it's going to go, like I want it to go well. And then every single time with Gather, as soon as you show up, there's so much rest and there's so much connection and community. And every start of a new event, it reminds me why we do it, because it is what we want to. It's what we need. They're wonderful people. I love getting to be in community with them. That the balance of events we have is what is restful to me.
Any final word for young adults? Any inspiration you want to leave with them?
Yeah. We talked a little bit about getting involved in like leading an organization that you are a part of. But even before that, it can be scary to show up to a new place if there's something that already exists. It can be scary if nothing exists. It can be scary to start the new place. But in both of those, in showing up to a new space for the first time, and in considering being open to creating a new space where none exists, you have so much support available to you. I think I always proactively offer to new participants and Gather, if you want to chat, meet in person before you come to an event, I'm happy to do that. I'm going to chat with somebody tomorrow morning. I always offer a coffee shop or a park, especially if it's good weather. We can offer either. Me or another organizer, whoever is kind of closest to your geographical area, I'd be happy to meet up. People don't always take us up on it, which is fine, but the offer is always there for new participant. I'm going to meet someone tomorrow to hear about what they're thinking about and hopefully give them a touch point to welcome before jumping into an event. Even if an organizer doesn't offer that, they're probably willing to do that. They care a lot about the community and you feeling embraced and welcomed and joining or checking it out. There's not a big commitment to checking out a new community. You can check it out and not come back and just visit, and that's really fine. So that's available. The other thing is the Gather Network has so much support available for leaders. There's the monthly meetings I talked about. There's a whole Google Drive full of one of my favorite things to do with Gather Network Leader was templatize. What did we do? What do I wish I knew when I started? What do I wish I had? Resources when I started. So there's a lot available in the Google Drive besides just monthly meetings. And there's an online space to get to ask questions and share with other Gather Network leaders, other young adults doing the same thing as you. So even if you fill out the form and are like, I need a co-organizer before I do this, but I don't know anyone in my area, getting in touch with anybody, just letting them know that you're open to it is a great first step. So those are the call to action I would give, the encouragement. I'm always happy to chat with young adults who are thinking about either of those things, who are worried, or, there's a lot we come with to both participating in and helping to build communities. They're big things. They're important things in our lives. They're things I think are really life-giving, but they can be big things. There's a lot of context we come with. So I mean, we didn't even talk about this, but there's a lot of like church context and church trauma that young adults can come with too. So that can complicate, hey, I want to start a church community, but I'm not really sure what it's going to look like or how I can navigate the system. Maybe you haven't interacted with church structure beyond your local congregation. I learned a lot more about church structure when I started Gather Cincinnati, and I really enjoy learning about it. It's fun for me. I'm enough of a church nerd that it works well, but you don't have to be to show up in these spaces. And it's not just a collection of people who are really into church. It's a collection of young adults who want to be together in faith community. And that's it. And ask questions and do life together. So I'm always happy to support through those and help make sure we're connecting young adults to the right resources to participate or lead. That's what I would share. Thank you for the opportunity to share. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. This has been really rich. I was encouraged just hearing and learning about your trajectory from Ohio State University and the ways that you use your discipline even to contribute to the struggle, to contribute to organizing and advancing social justice. So I'm excited for the listeners to be able to hear this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Collective Voice, the premier podcast of the 787 Collective. For more information, visit us at 787collective.org or find us on social media. And if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to subscribe, rate us, and share a review. For when you do, you are tricking the algorithm for the common good.